The best part of becoming self-employed, becoming a freelancer, is that you are the architect of your own career. You don't have to ask for permission to start new projects, do other things, or pivot entirely in your business. So if you've been exploring leaving your 9-to-5 or maybe starting a freelance side hustle, you might be wondering what this is actually going to look like for you, because this path is not cookie cutter. It's not one size fits all. It adapts to the individual, which is so awesome, and why I pursued freelancing full-time and why I've been self-employed for 5 years. That's why in this video, I'm going to lay out the different freelance paths you can take that all do wind up in a lucrative freelance career, but you can choose which one you resonate with most. These paths all have pros and cons, which I'll go into, but again, it is based on your personality and what you want to do. And make sure you stay till the end, because I'm going to be explaining how you can scale a freelance business. I've mentored over 250 freelancers, so the categories I'm going to be giving you are things that I've seen with myself and my students. Getting started is phase one. It's where you land those initial clients that allow you to replace your 9-to-5 income. But then the next challenge quickly becomes, how do you increase your freelance income and revenue year after year? I'll be explaining all of that at the end. So I read this blog post by Austin Church, and I tend to agree with his observations after the hundreds of freelancers that I've mentored and kind of seen their trajectory. So the first kind of freelancer is the dabbler. I think a lot of freelancers start off in this space. Austin calls it the moonlighter, but it's basically someone who's working a 9-to-5 and they try freelancing, maybe freelance writing, freelance graphic design, and they're kind of doing it as a side hustle. The pros of this approach is that you get to try it before you buy it. So you're basically determining whether you actually like providing this service to clients, and that might motivate you to really go full force. Some people need to experience it, see if they like it before they really know they want to get into it. It wasn't my path personally, but I've also gotten DMs from people that said that they were able to land clients and do freelance writing and they actually didn't like it. So maybe you have a freelance service in mind and you're not 100% sure you'd like to be doing it for a living. This could be an approach for you, is to just dabble in it. However, I will say that the reason why I can't really resonate with the dabbler is that, number one, I went all in. I was unemployed and then began my full-time freelance writing business. Whether or not I liked writing for a living and the type of writing I was doing was irrelevant for me personally. I wasn't looking to enjoy the work I was doing. I was looking to just escape my 9-to-5. Anything that would allow me to escape my 9-to-5, work from home, make my own schedule, and utilize my skills, I was pretty much willing to do that. The other big benefit to dabbling is that you have a safety net and you have a little bit of a financial cushion that allows you to be pickier with the types of clients you take on. It's really easy in the beginning to accept really low rates or take on a bad fit client just because you know you have to pay your bills with the freelance income. So if you have a full-time job, you can be a little bit more picky, maybe choose clients that you really want to work with in the beginning. Now, let me get into the cons of dabbling or not being full-time, kind of playing both sides of the fence. Number one, I noticed that in order to make it as a freelancer, there has to be a deep motivation because it's not easy. There's a lot of rejection and there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of instability, uncertainty. Basically, you have to really want to make it work and you have to be hungry. What I've noticed with people is that it's only when their back is against the wall and they know they have to land those clients is when they get super motivated to be consistent and do what they need to do to land clients. And that personally was my story. It's like I had two options in front of me: unemployed for months on end, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life, knowing that my time as a software sales rep had come to an end and that I was ready to do something new. I was ready to take this new leap in my career. I knew that I was either going to get clients and make this work, or I was going to go back to a sales job, try to make some money that way, and then re-explore it. I really didn't want to do that. So thankfully, I landed that first client within 30 days. When I saw that it was $1,000 per month, I realized if I could just do that 4 more times, I would make a full-time freelance income. Not living as a millionaire, but at least not have to go back to my 9-to-5, and I could focus on what I would need to do to scale up the income. But I did have urgency. If I could pinpoint one thing that a lot of people lack, it is that urgency. It is the fire lit under them that makes them put themselves out there, make themselves uncomfortable, and just get the work done. The other con when it comes to being a dabbler is that you might give up too soon, throw in the towel, and say this is just too hard because you're not seeing results as quickly as you'd like because your focus is distributed. When you don't have a full-time job and your only focus is to land clients and create your freelance website and start networking, freelancing, you have 100% of your time to dedicate toward that versus having your energy being pulled in all these different directions. This is another reason why I could never be a dabbler, is because I tend to have this black or white, all or nothing personality, where if I'm working full time for someone, I feel drawn to give my entire energy to that. Whereas if I'm freelancing, that's where my energy was going to go. So my suggestion for anyone who does the side hustle route and does not leave their 9-to-5 job is to understand that the results you'd be getting if you just put 100% of your focus is going to be a little bit different, and maybe be okay with that. Understand that if you were to burn the boats and go full-time freelance, you could probably do it faster than somebody who stays at a full-time job and does it on the side. It's all going to depend on your comfortability with risk, your specific financial situation, your healthcare situation. So that's what I say. This is really dependent on the person and your personality and your unique situation. So now let's talk about the all-ins, the people who burn the boats. They are going into this full steam ahead, which is what I did. This is when you make 100% of your income providing one-to-one freelance services. So the pros of that is that, again, do not underestimate the power of compound interest. All of the effort you're putting in now with your pitching, with your networking, building your online presence, it has a snowball effect. You also have complete time freedom and control over your schedule. This was 100% my biggest motivation in becoming a freelancer, was wanting that freedom. I just have a personality where I feel very stifled by 9-to-5. I don't think I'm easy to manage, unfortunately. You have to be self-aware and understand that, yes, maybe working in an office is a bummer for like a lot of people, but actually a lot of people benefit from the structure, the direction, the social aspect of going into an office, and knowing that I really didn't fit in there was this huge motivator for me to go out on my own. I didn't know I was capable of that until I actually became a freelancer. I was in a traditional 9-to-5 for years before I branched out into freelance services. So if you feel like there's something that makes you not a fit for a corporate environment, going all in as a freelancer can be incredibly healing. And what I mean by that is that all of the energy it was taking me to commute into an office, to always be reading the room and understanding how to play office politics on top of my full-time job, for me personally, my personality was very draining. Going full-time freelance and completely leaving your 9-to-5 can also be great for people who have chronic illnesses or chronic conditions. I'm someone who struggles with my mental health. I've struggled with depression my entire life since I was about 8 years old. I've been on and off medications, and finally, a couple of years ago, I got the full evaluation and diagnosis that I have major depressive disorder. That was not surprising. I finally got that little diagnosis from a doctor. I have certain days where I absolutely spiral and I'm pretty much unable to work. I always have to make up that work at a time that works for me, so it's fine. I manage my mental health about 90% of the time, but there's that 10% where it becomes debilitating. That being said, I'm managing it and it has flare-ups. It makes showing up to an office every single day, there's really not much leeway for a boss to be like, oh, Christine's just mentally spiraling today and having emotional outbursts, but she's good most of the time, so we'll keep her on. I do feel like there's a certain part of the population that just won't fit into that standard 9-to-5 employee mold, but we can be really productive and really effective. Being able to mold my schedule around how I work as a human is so valuable and something I will never take for granted. So before branching into digital products, I was all in for about a year or two, making a full-time income as a freelancer. So let's talk about the cons. When your entire income comes from one-to-one client relationships, losing a client can send you into an absolute tailspin. Especially the way that I was going about it when I was full-time freelance is that I really only wanted to work for a maximum of 5 clients at a time, which is great for my peace of mind and my focus and the quality of my output. The con with working for a smaller amount of clients that are paying you more is that they constitute a large chunk of your income, and losing them hurts. That's why I recommend you have a marketing and sales plan in place to replace clients that you lose. Anticipate that you are going to lose clients. Another unfortunate part of this is that if you raise your rates, which is something you have to incrementally do as a freelancer, they could say no, and then you are back to square one. So you have to set up your business in a way where you are prepared to lose clients and you're not so reliant on one single client. The other con is that you feel like you have to take pretty much all of the work that comes your way. You don't feel like there's a lot of room to be discerning or to say, this sounds really boring. I really don't want to put in the work for this. So there's really not a lot of room to be picky. You have less control over the types of projects you get because you're just reliant on that income. And that's actually one of the huge reasons I did add digital products to my income. That leads to this next category, which Austin calls the diversifier, which is eventually what I became. This is where you add a side hustle to your one-to-one freelance services. Typically, it's a one-to-many service. People like to call it passive income. I don't love that term because it's so misleading. There's almost nothing passive about it, especially in the beginning. So just think of it as one-to-many versus one-to-one. So when I take a freelance writing client, it requires me to do the work for the client, deliver the service, and then move on to the next project. Whereas a one-to-many offer, like my online course, allows people to find me online, enroll in my course, and then get access to me, get my modules, and learn my framework so that they can self-learn and ask me questions. It's much more scalable. The cool thing about adding a quote-unquote side hustle or a passive income stream to your freelance income is that I feel like this is good for people who don't want to be boxed into just doing the same thing over and over every single day. I know for me, it's like I activate an entire different part of like my brain and personality to deliver my digital products, my passive income versus my one-to-one services. So the cool thing is that you don't have to, let's say if you're a freelance graphic designer, you don't have to create an online course or a digital download about graphic design. You can go start a real estate side hustle. You can learn how to code or do web developing. It doesn't have to be, it kind of gives you the freedom to do something else with your career. Maybe you'll want to do affiliate sales where you start your own blog and start partnering with other brands. When I started my digital products business, I have to admit it was kind of coming from a selfish place where I really just wanted my name on something. So the thing with freelance writing and the type of writing that I do, it's called ghost writing or content writing, is that it's pretty much never in my name. I have hundreds of articles and social media posts and websites and web pages scattered all over the internet that I have put my blood, sweat, and tears into that I'll never get credit for. That's just the name of the game. I accepted the money for that exchange, that people are going to use my work and pass it off as their own. But because my dream was to become a writer, there was something very unfulfilling about that. And I wanted to kind of write in my own voice and talk about my life experiences, which is the total opposite of being a content writer, right? Like it doesn't matter what my life experiences are. I'm literally selling products through my copy and content on behalf of brands. So it was really nice for me to not only teach and help and mentor other freelancers, but at least just to come to them and say like, this is me, this is my experiences, this is what I've done. I'm going to teach you what I did versus like the undercover anonymous type of work I was doing as a freelance writer. Now let's talk about the scaling paths of a freelance writer, because again, like I said, there's stage one where you're literally taking on your initial set of clients, offering a service and replacing your 9-to-5 income servicing those clients. But you have to think about what comes next, right? How do you continue to make more income without just burning yourself out and taking on a bunch of clients, okay? Because that's one way. People always ask like, why do you not recommend Fiverr, Upwork? Well, it tends to be lower paying clients who are looking for cheap services, and that can work if you are ready to do a lot of work for a high volume of clients. My approach and everything I talk about on this channel is about flipping that upside down and saying, how can we provide premium services to premium clients that have the budget for it and work with 5 to 6 clients at once and not burn yourself out? Here's how you scale. And I'm going to give this to you in order of complexity and how hard they are to accomplish and the level of skill and work it'll take to do this. So number one is going to be the easiest, which is just raising your rates. The way that I did this was that I would get in on the ground floor with a client, and then it would just be a matter of proving myself. How can I build a relationship with this client so that when I eventually come to them and increase my rates, they're going to want to raise my rates instead of saying no and finding a new writer, right? So building relationships as a freelancer and providing an excellent client experience by being a good communicator and being responsive. That's why I harp so much on those skills, is because you're able then to build lucrative relationships with clients and not constantly be searching for new clients, because those clients you're working for want to hold on to you for a longer period of time. So that is the first way to make more money, is just to incrementally raise your rates. It's the easiest way to scale your business up, but you have to be comfortable having those conversations. So keep that in mind. Number two is outsourcing. I've done a bit of this. So basically, once you get to a point where you have clients reaching out to you, you're not hustling as hard for freelance clients, you're going to have more clients coming to you than you can realistically take on. And that's when you want to outsource. Outsourcing is just paying someone to do the work for you, and you're giving a portion of your fee to that person so that they can do the work. This gives other writers or other service providers an opportunity to gain experience and, get those opportunities. Maybe they're not going to be making the highest rates ever because you're taking your cut, but it gives you that assistance that you need to hand off high volumes of deliverables to a client that you might be just too overwhelmed. I don't love this. Personally, for me, it was like, yes, I'm putting in the work to deal with the client, and then I'm proofreading, making my changes, handing it off. It almost becomes a very convoluted process unless you build a system around it and really have like this conveyor belt where you're very easily and quickly and efficiently able to hand that work off, submit it to the client. It also becomes a little dicey because sometimes the client might not be comfortable with you outsourcing the work, but it really depends on your field. I think for writing, it's more sensitive, whereas other design services or other freelance services, it might just be the norm to know like, yes, we're working with this guy and he outsources parts of the job. It's fine. Next is the agency model. A lot of writers get to this point where they're going to become the CEO. They're going to hire someone to get the leads. They're going to hire someone to manage the client. They're going to hire writers or graphic designers or web developers to deliver the service. And they basically employ a bunch of people to be doing the work for them. If you've always dreamed of working with your own team, this could be a really good model for you. Then there's passive income. That is the route that adding digital products or one-to-many services. Again, I'd really like to say one-to-many versus passive because it's really not passive. Passive is really just a marketing term to get people, fired up to do it, thinking like I can just print money and close my laptop and sleep and money's good. No, you have to really build that up for a long time before it becomes quote unquote passive. But again, it is something that you can scale. It becomes more passive over time. So if you're interested in digital products, I definitely recommend you check out Louise Henry and her offers, teaching you basically how to become a digital products CEO and really get clear on your offer and package it and sell it. She's an incredibly trustworthy person in a very saturated online course creation market. So I'm going to link down below to Louise Henry. She's just the real deal. I've bought her courses. I learned how to use Asana from Louise. She is just the real deal, and I can't speak highly enough of her. And then there's starting your own personal brand. So if you look at somebody like Justin Welch, who has like this super profitable email newsletter, yes, he has online courses, but he built a massive audience and he's monetizing in a few different ways, just packaging his experience and sharing it with the world. Maybe think of like a Dan Coe, for example. Again, massive personal brand. If you feel like you are somebody who wants to be putting yourself out there as like a thought leader and sharing your expertise and posting on LinkedIn, posting on Twitter, like maybe you consider yourself a thinker, that could be a really great route for you to scale. Whatever your expertise is as a freelancer, you parlay it into a personal brand, which I think to an extent we all need to be personal brand builders, but it really just depends how far you want to go and how big you want to get. Now that you know the different paths, I want to talk to those people who are ready to leave their 9-to-5 job. They know, like you resonated with what I said in terms of not fitting into the 9-to-5 mold, and you know it's time for you to transition from your 9-to-5 corporate or whatever full-time job and replace it with freelance income. You are ready to live life on your own terms. You want to make your own schedule. You're done commuting. You're done going into an office. I'm going to be breaking down in this next video the top mistakes that people make that keep them stuck in the 9-to-5 versus transitioning out. And I'm going to share the mindset that it takes to finally go out on your own and make it as a self-employed freelancer entrepreneur. Don't miss that.